These 5 legendaries are must-have weapons for your Onslaught builds. These are weapons that are going to enhance your build so much, it's going to take your builds from the sad dirt hut stage to feeling unstoppable. And these weapons will do it in 2 ways, either by working hand in hand with your build and synergizing each step of the way, or being so good on their own at what they do that it allows you more freedom to use your special and heavy weapons the way that you need to. The sound of a tormentor spawning in still makes my heart sink, but it really helps when I can run a strong precision weapon because my ad clear is completely taken care of by my primary or a really good ad clear special. There's a little bit for everyone here in my short list. I tried to pick weapons from various activities. Every weapon is from free-to-play activities. PvE only people can still get these, and if you're one of the many suffering from PTSD because you thought LFG would be a good idea one time, well, there's still a bunch of weapons you can earn from this list. And of course, if there's a weapon you're not interested in, I've got chapters below that you can kind of skip around. Alright, let's get started. At number 1, we have Tusk of the Boar. This is a strand special grenade launcher from Iron Banner, and it's quickly become a go-to for me for mass ad clear, but maybe not for the reason you'd think. We'll get to that. If you look at the traits real quick, I think you'll understand why it's so good for ad clear. Right away, we've got Slideways, allowing for quick reloads on that first column, or Envious Assassin. Either of these are going to be awesome. I know Slideways has that 3-second cooldown, but realistically, you can just fire, slide, fire again, reload manually, then fire again. By that time, you can slide again. So it's kind of like every other shot can be a slide reload. It's not as good as slide shot, but it's also not that big of a deal, so don't shy away from it. It's a really great way to be able to fire, slide, and then switch away to your primary, continue dealing damage while that Slideways cooldown is active, and then switch back to it and fire. It's just a little bit more nuanced, I guess. Envious Assassin is also going to give you that potential for a triple shot as well. Really nice, and considering just how many ads are thrown at you in Onslaught, I don't think you'll have any issue taking advantage of Envious Assassin. And don't forget, when the final shape drops, we're going to be able to enhance any of these traits. Now we get to the second column. You got Threadling and Chain Reaction. Those are the ones I'm interested in for builds. I know bait and switch is there, but you don't usually want to use a wave frame for pure damage. Chain Reaction hasn't been nerfed yet and won't be until the final shape, so you still have about 2 months to enjoy it at its fullest power. And you know, I didn't think Threadling would be that great on Tusk of the Boar, but that was before Onslaught released, and I think it would be a pretty strong choice considering how high the ad density is in Onslaught. There are so many ads. You're going to be getting multi-kills non-stop. I don't have the role personally, but if you have a Threadling role, let me know down in the comments how it is for you. I'm definitely curious, definitely going to be farming that out for next Iron Banner. That said, this video is specifically about great weapons for builds, so what's the deal? What's so good about Tusk of the Boar for builds? Well, it's got decent traits on its own, but where Tusk really shines is in the artifact mods, all because of these 2 mods here, Unraveling Orbs and Horde Shuttle. Unraveling Orbs will grant you unraveling rounds after picking up an Orb of Power. I know, who could have guessed? And then Horde Shuttle will occasionally spawn Threadlings when unraveled targets are damaged, so those 2 work right together. Tusk of the Boar is great because of how easily you can spread that unraveling, which just cascades from one target to the next. I feel like a hallway of unraveled ads is the Xbox One's worst nightmare. Literally all you have to do to take advantage of these 2 mods is pick up an orb and then fire off a shot from Tusk and watch the chaos. Every target that wave touches will spread unraveling, and then if you further damage those targets, they'll have a chance to spawn Threadlings. And it doesn't have to be with a strand weapon, as you can see here either. Any weapon can follow up shots on an unraveled target, and it has a chance to spawn Threadlings. And look at the perk for Unraveling Orbs. What do you notice? It doesn't have any qualifiers, no conditions. It doesn't matter what class you're playing on. You can use Unraveling Orbs with a strand weapon, even if you're playing on Solar, Stasis. Wait, oh snap, did I just unlock Prism 2 months early? My favorite way to use Tusk of the Boar isn't really to build into it at all, although you definitely can. I like to use it to build out of. With just a couple of the artifact mods, you have incredible ad clear synergy, while completely freeing up your energy and heavy weapons for a great Solar or Void build, or Arc if you like dying. So next time Iron Banner comes around, I highly recommend trying to get it. Even if it's just for these 2 months, it's an excellent utility weapon. Once you get a single roll to drop from either post-game rewards or the engrams from Salad Man, you can easily focus any engrams you get afterwards, which is exactly what I was doing at 4 AM last Tuesday. I wish I was kidding. Of course, you can always build into Tusk as well. It's excellent with Strand Siphon and the threat of warding for Woven Mail on Orb pickup. I'm definitely working on a build for that one for sure, so keep an eye out for that. Tusk of the Boar is an incredible weapon. I think it has higher potential than Forbearance just because of how much more subclass synergy you get out of it, and Bungie just stated that they've increased the drop rate for the next Iron Banner for people who don't have it yet. so I'd definitely farm it for next time. I know I'll be farming for a god roll. Next up is Word of Crota from the free-to-play Crota's End raid. To be honest, pretty straightforward raid as long as you can read a timer, although some people still aren't very good at that. If you hate raiding, I get it. I've got an honorable mention I want to talk about in a minute, but Word of Crota is a void 180 precision hand cannon, and before you turn your nose up at it, let's just take a look at the traits. You've got some strong options to pair together like Demolitionist and Adrenaline Junkie for regeneration and damage, Repulsor Brace and stabilizing rounds of course, and even ammo management perks like Subsistence, which would combine nicely with extra damage from Rampage or Sword Logic. Now as a hunter, the build crafting value comes in a pairing like Repulsor Brace and a damage trait, since I can take advantage of Gerfalcon's Hauberk for near constant volatile rounds. It's basically constant uptime, and any kill I get is going to land me an overshield, which is awesome. Not that it matters when a Tormentor decides he's just going to turn it into a WWE match and chokeslam toss me out of the arena.
His name is John Cena!
I guess overshields don't really help then. But Repulsor Brace and something like Sword Logic or Frenzy are probably going to be what I'd recommend for any class, honestly, since getting volatile rounds is pretty easy anyways. All you gotta do is land a grenade kill with Echo of Instability, and then use Devour to regenerate your grenade energy as you go. I mean, it's not like you're going to be using something other than Devour, right? You're going to need that healing. Word of Crota also has the additional utility of a great origin trait, Cursed Thrall, which will grant literal Cursed Thrall explosions for 7.5 seconds after landing a melee kill, and it doesn't have to be a powered melee either. I kind of figured Titans would be able to take advantage of that pretty nicely. Just a little bit of extra ad clear on top of everything else you got going. Overall, Word of Crota has great utility. It's got good range, ammo, it's very comfortable to shoot, and it is free to earn. Now, if you don't want to farm out a raid or don't have the friends to raid with, I totally understand that, and that's where Optative comes in. The Season 23 precision hand cannon from Riven. That thing can also roll nice combos like Repulsor Brace and Golden Tricorn, Demo and Tricorn, even Permeability if you want to use it in tandem with the Tusk of the Boar, since just using your class ability is going to switch it to the subclass element that you're using. Permeability can definitely be a handy perk depending on the build that you're running. I don't think it's as good as Word of Crota, but it's a fine replacement if you need it. Alright, on to number 3. At number 3, we've got Parabellum, a solar world drop SMG with some surprising traits. I know the moment I said world drop, some of you might have tuned out, but I gotta say, Bungie has recently been cooking with the world drops. You got weapons like Crux Termination dropping, with good traits in nearly every slot, and now Parabellum, which I know some of you might be overlooking, but that's what I want to change right now. Now, first question I look to answer with any solar weapon that enters the loot pool is, does it have Incandescent? And the answer here is no, so why shouldn't you just skip to the next weapon on the list? Why is Parabellum even near a build video? Well, I got two main reasons for that. First one is the artifact this season, which is just loaded with solar options. As good as Strand is, solar is even better. Kindling Trigger will scorch enemies when you're radiant, which is very easy in turn with Flint Striker, which grants radiant after a few rapid headshots, and then Raise of Precision, which grants ignitions on precision kills while radiant, which is a very easy thing to be currently. So the way Flint Striker procs appears to be based on the percentage of the mag that you land as crits, which again is pretty easy to accomplish on a 900 RPM SMG. On a Trace Rifle, not as much, but SMGs go through their magazines very quickly, so you have a near constant uptime of radiant. Not to mention a chance for very easy ignitions, and while you're radiant, you're going to be scorching everybody, which ties in the builds very naturally for any of the three classes. And then on top of that, you got some of the traits to layer on top, which only enhances your build crafting. Now, I'll readily admit, this is a really ugly trait list for the most part, but there's just a couple traits I want you to focus on. First up is Heal Clip in the first column. Heal Clip got a buff recently and now grants 2x cure when you land a kill and reload, which is just so easy, and it's really potent. That 2x cure is very powerful. That constant level of healing is really helpful when things get crazy in Legend Onslaught, and you're somehow the last man standing for the 4th time already, and it's only round 7. There's also Rewind Rounds, which is basically just a free mag boost. It feels very nice on weapons like SMGs that eat their mags super fast. But here's where it gets good. Attrition Orbs grants Orbs of Power when you land 67% of your magazine on a target. Now again, a 33 round magazine on a 900 RPM SMG goes very, very quickly. If you combine that with Rewind Rounds, you can miss a few shots and still kind of recover and get that orb in a single magazine, or on tougher targets where they can take the bullets, you can actually regenerate 2 orbs per magazine. Now you might be saying, whatever, those orbs don't give you much super energy, which is correct. They only give you 0.8% super energy per orb, which to be honest isn't very good. But what's good about the orbs is what it lets you do. By generating those orbs in Onslaught, you're feeding a little bit into your super. It's going to be feeding into your surge mods, so you always have extra damage, or any health restoration mods you might have on your leg. Or maybe you're running a grenade build, then you should slot innervation on your legs so that each orb grants grenade energy. You're also going to be helping out your teammates as well with the orbs that you drop. And personally, one of my favorite ways to use attrition orbs is to overcharge my super with Star Eater scales. It feels kind of bad when your teammate pops a super and then you use those giant orbs to overcharge your super. Since you know that those regenerate so much super, you could just use it and then pick them up. So being able to generate orbs for yourself really easily and then take advantage of your teammates' larger orbs of power is really advantageous in Onslaught, where having your super on demand is very important. Overall, Parabellum is a decent weapon on its own, and it's actually a pretty good support option as well, since you can provide healing and orbs for you and your teammates, because don't forget that Heal Clip also shares Cure ×1 with nearby teammates. You also have permeability on this gun too, if you wanted to take advantage of it on a different subclass. Maybe Warlocks could take advantage of it by casting a Rift, then you have a Void Parabellum you can use to create tons of orbs for Devour, and so on. There's a lot of possibilities with it. That said, I think it's probably better to just use, well, number 4 on the list, Recluse. The Recluse is also available for all players and is a free weapon and can be earned from Onslaught, whether that's the 10-wave playlist, 50 waves, or Legend. So whatever you're comfortable with, you can still earn the Recluse. Like the other Void weapons on this list, it's got very good synergy with Void subclasses that I think you could take a couple different directions. Most obvious pairing here is Repulsor Brace and Destabilizing Rounds, of course, like on the other Void options, but I think there are stronger options here on the Recluse that lean into a more balanced experience. Part of the reason I think that is because of the Origin trait. The Origin trait restores 5% grenade energy on light subclasses when you get kills, and 5% melee energy on darkness subclasses. So right off the bat, you've got a little more to work with on the build side. Combined with Devour and the Origin trait, now you're going to have 2 layers feeding back into your grenade energy, and of course you're going to be getting healed when you get kills with Devour, and because of fragments like Echo of Instability or aspects like Controlled Demolition for Titans that allow for pretty easy volatility, I think Repulsor Brace is still going to be the play in Onslaught, where just having some overshields makes your life a lot easier. Destabilizing Rounds is okay, but I think it's just better to avoid it and just build it into your subclass instead, since the burst radius isn't really that huge when an enemy dies, and it kind of feels sometimes like it has a weird cooldown. Like, not every enemy every time explodes. I don't know, it's kind of weird. Master of Arms is also kind of weak at 15%. It's not bad, but I probably think you'd be better off going for something like Desperate Measures to take advantage of your grenade more. It can allow for stacking damage up to 30%. Or there's also Surrounded, which I'm not typically a fan of, but there are so many enemies almost all the time everywhere that it's basically a free 40% damage boost, which is huge. You don't really see damage buffs handed out like that anymore. There are a lot of encounters across the game that I wouldn't recommend Surrounded on a primary, but in Onslaught and with a close quarter SMG anyways, I think it's really nice. I've been using a Repulsor Brace Surrounded roll with Gerfalcons lately, and it's very strong. Constant volatile rounds, really good survival with Devour and frequent invisibility, pretty decent grenade regen with Devour and the Origin trait Indomitability as well. I've been running that roll with some weapons like Heritage or Whisper of the Worm or even Sleeper Simulant for really high single target damage, and it's worked really nicely. And that's why it's so important to have a really strong primary or just a good ad clearing solution, because it's really important to be able to deal with those demolitionists quickly. Or the Tormentors, those guys are gonna mess you up. Recluse being such a good workhorse with the right Void build goes a long way towards giving you that flexibility. Now, if you don't think you need the overshields, then just go for pure utility like Threat Detector and Surrounded, or Subsistence, or Desperate Measures, Master of Arms, whatever you want. You can see the perk pool up here. There are definitely some really great choices here. And if you need specific builds, then definitely subscribe, because I have a number of builds I'm cooking up right now. I also posted a God Roll guide for all 12 of the Into the Light weapons, which will be helpful in the coming weeks as more weapons are added, so feel free to check that out. Recluse is really solid though, and I definitely recommend trying to farm out the best 4 trait shiny roll that you can before June 3rd. And with that, we're on to our 5th and last weapon, Abyss Defiant from Crota's End as well. What I like about Abyss Defiant is that it's a pretty great standalone weapon with the artifact mods like Tusk of the Boar is, or you can fold it into your solar build since it has incandescent, and that just creates a cascade of possibilities. Bottom line is, even though we're used to only being able to take advantage of subclass 3.0 verbs if you're playing as that subclass, the artifact mod lets us take advantage of those verbs even if we're playing a different subclass. So if you want to use Strand but also want to hang on to the benefits of Radiance and Ignitions, you can still do that, which is amazing. I love the flexibility that the artifact provides. So you can take it that direction or fold it into your builds. Either way, the PvE God Roll, in my opinion, is Heal Clip and Incandescent. There's damage utility, there's healing, and there's artifact and subclass synergy. I know we talked about Heal Clip a little bit earlier when discussing Parabellum, but it's really legit. And the tougher the waves get through Legend Onslaught, the more vital it is that you're alive, you're working together, defending the ADU, all three of you. And Heal Clip helps you do that by giving you healing and also spreading it around. Part of the reason Heal Clip is a trait I've come to enjoy since it's been retuned is how it gives you the freedom and the flexibility, like we've been saying, to make your builds more aggressive, or at least open up other options. You don't have to spec into healing as much if you don't want to, since Heal Clip can help cover that gap. You can take those fragments and do something else, or just double down and have crazy healing. Over the years, we've had lots of options for damage. We've gotten options for subclass synergy lately, like Volt Shot and Incandescent, but it's great to be finally getting more healing-oriented traits that allow us more flexibility for builds. And I think Heal Clip does that pretty nicely. Incandescent, of course, is excellent for solar builds and spreading damage, potentially spreading ignitions, and leaning into other elements of your build. One really seamless way to use Incandescent is Ember of Mercy and Searing, so defeating scorched targets will drop fire sprites, which grant restoration. This way, you're getting grenade energy back from the fire sprites, you're returning melee energy with Searing, and you're also gaining restoration when you pick up the fire sprites. Now that restoration is extremely short at around only 3 seconds, but you can take advantage of that and extend it with Ember of Tempering, so solar kills increase the duration of existing solar buffs. And that's just one example for you. Obviously, it's not super unique for a solar weapon to have Incandescent, but Heal Clip and Incandescent together are pretty rare, and I think Abyss Defiant is a really solid weapon with good overall utility, good damage, good range, and a great origin trait. For hunters who can easily ignite scorched targets with a heavy throwing knife, it's a great option. Toss a knife, get a kill plus a bonus ignition, now you've got 7 seconds for your gun to create even more explosions. It's just a ton of fun. It's a great bonus, it's not a game changer, but sometimes a nice bonus can really help in a mode as crazy as Legend Onslaught. I wanted to keep it a little shorter today, so hopefully I accomplished that. Each of these weapons have something to offer for your builds, and I really think you'd enjoy some of these if you give them a try. I'd love to hear what builds and weapons you're using to clear Legend Onslaught. It's a pretty difficult activity, and it's really kind of forced me to get in my bag for build crafting and see what I can do to maximize every little bit of my build. So I'd love to hear what you guys are doing. Don't forget to like and subscribe for more videos. I post videos as regularly as I can. Catch me on Saturday night Twitch streams, or stop by the Discord for regular updates. Lastly, I've got a Patreon if you want to support me directly. Thanks so much for watching. Have a great time getting those shiny Brave weapons, and I'll catch you in the next one.